that works its way into this whole thing we're talking about Abbott not saying things was that Taylor and I were actually we noticed this the other night was when all the Colorado medical marijuana laws were passed.
Mhm.
I was like, hey, Taylor, by the way, what is Abbott's stance on medical marijuana? And Taylor's like, oh, well, he actually hasn't said anything. So it
Right.
does seem like there is a pattern from Abbott about him not wanting to say too much. And
Is it?
that's the
Yeah.
best case scenario. And the worst case scenario is him just being super political and just giving away nothing at all.
Yeah.
And
Is it not more disturbing if, because we can have a broad, rich, wonderful conversation about people's past, which we are doing, and I enjoy it. But is it not disturbing to you? I really do. But is it not disturbing to you that we're not talking about the future and what the future governor of Texas, which it's going to be one of these two people. By the way, I do think in all likelihood it'll be Greg Abbott, but the one who's saying the least about what they will do and what their policy positions are is the likely next governor of the state. You don't find that a little head scratching,
Aren't they both
a little worrisome?
Aren't they both
Actually, I think Davis has been very clear about a lot of things that she would do. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
When it comes to education funding in the state, she has said, and by the way, she filibustered the education cuts in 2011.
Yeah.
She was very much against that, and people can argue that that issue if they want, but we know exactly where she stands. There's no question about it. And she has also talked about the need to put more funding into education. What Greg Abbott has said is simply that he defended the cuts, in the courts because it's his job as Attorney General to do that, which is true. However, what people want to know is if you're governor, would you have signed the bill that cut all that money from public schools? If you're governor, would you fight for there to be more funding in public schools? What would you do to make schools better? And he has really not talked much about that at all. Now, you can disagree about what Wendy Davis has said about what she would do, but at least we have an idea what it is.
Well, you know what? On some issues, yes, but like if she said she wants to expand concealed carry, what does that even mean? How do you expand concealed carry? Are we talking open carry here? She's cool with people with pistols on their hips, or she's cool with expanding concealed carry into airports. What does so? She's gone on record as a senator and voted and let people know how she feels about certain things. The thing that I'm wondering is going on is the trend that if Abbott really thinks that he's got this, like he thinks that he's got, say, 60% of the vote right now. So if he just says absolutely nothing at all, he wins. And then Wendy goes and has a really bad week this last week. And that might even create a trend of him saying even less, because now he thinks, okay, well, she opened her mouth and screwed up. So now I'm sure there's no chance that I'm going to talk about illegal, immigrants getting funding for college, and there's no chance I'm going to talk about medical marijuana. And I guess that trend will make itself known soon.
Doesn't that make it that much more important that at some point we get away from these discussions about people's personal lives, which are fair to have, but at some point we got to move on to real issues and hold these people to account. I mean, you would agree with that, right, Sean?
Right, and I would agree that since we have till November, it's good to get all this like meeting the candidate personal information crap out of the way. Yes, Abbott is handicapped. Yes, it happened when he was jogging. Yes, we know details from Wendy Davis now. Now, I do completely agree with you, Scott, that now we need both candidates to really tell us what they think about all the different issues.
Okay.
I knew I would win you over.
No. We were talking about this the other night that Abbott really does, like he's been playing a no pun intended, a conservative campaign so far. But at some point you do at some point you do have to open your mouth though and talk to people and let people know what you think.
Okay.
And I hope he will do that.
Okay, a couple of things.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
A couple of things. One, when it comes to her educational plan, I would like to know how she plans on funding it. That's my question. How she plans on funding her educational proposals. Specifically this one, where she did say, and I want to find it. She says that the top 20% of high school juniors who commit to a teaching career would be guaranteed early acceptance to colleges that includes UT, Texas A&M, University of Texas at Arlington, and UNT, University of North Texas, which I am a grad of, and
no bias.
Yeah.
No bias.
Main grain. Yep.
Actually, I'm sorry to say that I'm a grad of that.
Oh, come on.
Oh, wait, did I say that out loud? Sorry.
Okay, so bias in the other direction
yeah.
then.
I'm joking. Now, here's the next thing. All those students would be guaranteed a job teaching in a Texas school after graduation. Okay. Here is my question. How do you pay for that? If public money, specifically including Robinhood, which for those who don't know, it's taking Scott, help me to make sure that I get this correctly. It's taking money from richer areas,
property rich. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Property rich districts are required to send money to
from richer area and giving them to poor areas.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a whole other issue.
Right, that's a whole another issue.
Sure.
But if that's what she wants to do, can Robinhood even pay for that, or is there going to have to be another tax or more cuts?
I'm not. Well, a couple things. Number one, Robinhood, I think, would not factor into this particular issue because it has to do specifically with how the public schools themselves are funded, and I think what she's talking about has to do with the admissions to these colleges, and then whether or not those students would end up teaching at public schools later. And this is important to know. They have brought in some of the most brilliant economists on the planet to try to explain the school finance system in Texas, and they cannot. So don't expect me to. That's another thing to know. But I think the other thing that's important here is that neither Abbott nor Davis's education proposals, and they're very, sort of vague at this point. Like you say, there's not a whole lot of details.
That's about it.
Talks about local control. Neither of them have had their, quote, plans scored. We don't know the costs of either of these. But one final thing to know that's very important is that Texas is flush with cash. We do not have, we don't have a budget problem here. In fact, in the last, and that's not to say that we won't in the future, but right now we're doing just fine. We have a huge reserve fund in the form of our economic stabilization fund, or rainy day fund. It's billions and billions of dollars. When they set up that fund, they thought they'd be lucky to have $200 or $300 million in that fund. But oil and gas revenues are what feed that fund, and so there's a lot of extra dough there. And the other thing is, in the general budget, the Republican-dominated legislature put most of those cuts that were made in 2011, put most of that back last year. And the reason they were able to do that is because the economy's gotten better and our budget situation is pretty good. So it's legitimate to ask how exactly she would pay for it. But we're not exactly scrounging around trying to find money in Texas. We've got lots of it where some other states don't.
Sean?
I'm sorry, Taylor. I could have swore that I heard you say that these kids will be guaranteed jobs when they graduate college.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not going to fail horribly or anything.
Well, and this is the other thing. This, and I actually asked this on my Facebook page. I legit asked my friends who are teachers in Texas when they decided that they wanted to be a teacher. Now, some of them said, I knew when I was in high school. Some said they knew when they were in college.
Yeah.
And others said they just got tired of the career they were in and decided to be a teacher. So I guess the details that I want to hear more from Davis have to do with, okay, what happens if somebody says they're going to do this?
Well, how is it sustainable?
Well,
I'm not sure how it's not. Well, I'm not sure how it's not. It's totally sustainable, and here's why. When you talk about teaching, it's a profession that needs constant recruitment. They never have enough teachers. They simply don't. And in a state where you're adding 1,200 people per day, those people bring kids with them. Some of those 1,200 are children, of course, and they're moving to the suburbs. They're moving to the exurbs. They're moving to the places around the state where growth is just through the roof. We need water. We need roads. We need more in the way of public schools. And as you said, even through your unscientific Facebook poll, which I do plenty of those unscientific polls myself, but even through that poll, you saw where a lot of these people who go into the teaching profession, it's not the first thing they thought of when they were thinking about what career to go into. It's a lot like, and this is a different issue that I cover all the time. It's a lot like construction, where they just simply don't have the workers that they need. They're trying to recruit people all the time. Teaching is the same way. And we're never going to not need schools. We're never going to not need teachers. And so I think if you're going to try to entice people into a profession where there's a constant need for recruitment, that's probably one of the most sustainable government programs you could have.
The problem that I have with this is that college students change their mind.
Mm-hmm. A lot.
I know people who went to college and they were one major, and then they were another major the next year, and another major the next year. And then when they finally graduated 3 years later, they were a separate major.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, at UNT, I was a broadcast journalism major.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me finish. I was a broadcast journalism major, and then my senior year, I actually had somebody say to me, we prefer people who aren't just broadcast journalism majors, and I got tired of Journalism 101 classes, and I just said, screw it, I'm changing my major to history, which may not be as smart, but hey, it still worked. And by the way, before we continue, we do have breaking news. Very big breaking news.
Better not be about Justin Bieber.
No, it is not.
Okay.
The Dallas Stars, your Dallas Stars, have defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-0.
Right. Yeah.
The Dallas Stars have beaten the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-0. All I have to say is to Pint-Sized Pundit, who is Liz Harrison's We Won. Ha! Ha! Ha!
I can picture Taylor with his finger in his kid's face like, ha, 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 we won. No, look, maybe I have a jaded perspective because of pilot school. One of the first things at the two different pilot schools that I went to was they teach you, hey, yeah, we're going to need pilots when you graduate, but we don't hire everyone because we can't hire everyone. So maybe I'm coming from that where in that business, even though you have someone handing you $50,000 to $75,000 just for their to get their licensing and qualifications squared away, that's in 2 years.
Sure.
These universities, when I priced Texas Tech out, was $10,000, was like $5,000 or $10,000 a year.
Sure.
That was a long time ago, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I'm sure it's worse now.
Yeah, right. So, but it just if it wasn't sustainable, and if we're talking something and it's not sustainable in the private sector, I always kind of hesitate when someone makes it sound like, oh, the state will pay for it, and suddenly it's sustainable.
That's a completely legitimate argument. But you both are conservatives, right? I mean, you would say that.
I'm a libertarian myself.
You're a libertarian, but you believe in the Constitution, though, right?
Yes.
Oh, of course. I'm a and I also believe in fiscal conservatism, also.
Okay, gotcha. You agree with but you believe in the United States Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And you believe in the Texas Constitution.
I do.
Yes, there is no other government service other than education that is guaranteed by the Texas Constitution. It is half the budget for a reason, because it is required by the Texas Constitution that every child is going to get a free public education, or at least be offered the opportunity to have one. And so when we talk about education, it is something that is sacrosanct. It is something that is enshrined in our founding documents in this state. One of the things that people don't know about education in Texas is that one of the reasons that the Texians, if you will, rose up against the Mexican government is because the Mexican government did not offer a free public education to all children, and it was something that our founding fathers in this state was important enough to spill their blood over. And so the fact that it's in our Constitution, it's required to be spent, the money is going to be